Chile has recently taken a decisive step towards nationalizing its lithium industry, signing a joint venture agreement between the state-owned Codelco and local lithium giant SQM. This move directly impacted Tianqi Lithium, a major Chinese company under the control of the Chinese Communist Party, which has invested heavily in Chile's lithium sector. This marks a significant setback for China in the global race for dominance over critical resources like lithium. On November 12, 2025, the company's wholly owned subsidiary Tianqi Chile received a ruling from the Court of Appeals in Santiago, Chile, which dismissed its legal claims. This ruling is not final. This announcement shocked the global market, particularly China. After lithium prices dropped following a peak in 2022, Tianqi faced financial strain. Now, with the nationalization of the industry, Tianqi's stake in SQM has lost value and future dividends will be diluted. While Chinese state media provided limited coverage, this was a significant blow to internal morale, seen as a major setback to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Tianqi Lithium is a key player in China's lithium industry, which invested $4 billion in 2018 to acquire a 23.8% stake in SQM, making it the second largest shareholder. This deal gave Tianqi access to the Atacama Salt Flat in Chile, which holds nearly 40% of the world's known lithium reserves. This acquisition was part of China's going out strategy aimed at securing resources in the global lithium supply chain to dominate the electric vehicle sector. However, this expansion was not without challenges. As a democratic country in South America, Chile has been cautious about foreign investment. When Tianqi acquired its stake in SQM, the deal was scrutinized by Chile's anti-monopoly authorities, and Tianqi had to promise not to interfere with SQM's board. Despite this, China has continued to push for control. In 2022, as lithium prices surged, Tianqi profited from SQM's dividends, sparking local discontent in Chile. Indigenous communities raised concerns about water shortages and environmental damage caused by mining, while Chinese companies often ignore these issues in favor of resource extraction. On April 20th, 2023, Chile's President Gabriel Boric announced plans to nationalize the lithium industry. He stated that lithium is a strategic resource for Chile and must be controlled by the state to ensure that profits benefit the entire population, not foreign corporations. The plan centers on a public-private partnership model. Existing operators like SQM and Albemarle will be required to collaborate with Codelco, the world's largest copper producer, which will now oversee lithium production. Boric aims to double Chile's lithium production by 2030 while implementing environmentally friendly technologies to protect the Atacama Desert. In 2024, Chile began implementing the Nationalization plan. On May 31st, Codelco and SQM signed a preliminary agreement to form a joint venture starting in 2025 to jointly develop the Atacama Salt Flat. The agreement has two phases. From 2025 to 2030, SQM will lead operations with a 49% stake, and after 2031, Codelco will take a 50% plus one stake, gaining majority control. The deal is worth billions of dollars. SQM will cede additional mining rights to Codelco in exchange for an extension of SQM's lease until 2060. The joint venture is expected to increase lithium production from 95,000 tons per year to 300,000 tons per year. The Boric government has emphasized that this is not expropriation but a fair sharing. However, for Tianqi, this is a disaster. The Chilean government will take 70% of the joint venture's net profits for national development, leaving Tianqi's stake with little influence over decision-making. In July 2024, Tianqi appealed to Chile's constitutional court, claiming that the agreement violated shareholder rights, but the court dismissed the appeal. Tianqi also sought international arbitration, arguing that the agreement violated investment treaties. On November 10, 2025, China's anti-monopoly authority approved the joint venture with conditions revealing China's inability to prevent the nationalization. This compromise reflects China's reluctance to confront Chile directly while also exposing the vulnerability of its overseas investment. Chile's strong stance against China's attempts to dominate the lithium sector highlights the power of sovereignty in democratic nations. The Boric government responded to the voices of indigenous communities, which have long suffered from the negative impacts of mining. Indigenous leaders have declared that lithium belongs to the people of Chile, not foreign exploiters. This contrasts sharply with China's approach to suppressing rights defenders within its borders. This is a major defeat for the CCP for several reasons. First, from an economic perspective, Tianqi Lithium's $4 billion investment has lost value. Falling lithium prices led to Tianqi's net loss of 7.9 billion yuan in 2024. The company's revenue dropped by 67.8% year on year to just 13 billion yuan, its worst performance since going public. In the first quarter of 2025, the company is expected to report a loss of 3.6 to 4.3 billion yuan, pushing its total losses to over 10 billion yuan. The nationalization of Chile's lithium industry further compresses profits. Tianqi's stock price plunged and investors' confidence collapsed. This exposes a risk of CCP-controlled investments overseas, vulnerable to shifts in local policies and a lack of legal protections. Second, from a geopolitical standpoint, this move undermines China's effort to dominate the global lithium market. China controls downstream processing, but countries like Chile are tightening access to vital lithium resources, forcing China to seek more expensive alternatives in places like Australia or Africa. More importantly, this has sparked a ripple effect in the lithium triangle. Bolivia has already stepped up nationalization efforts, and Argentina is considering similar actions. China's Belt and Road projects in Latin America have also run into resistance, with mining protests in Ecuador and port disputes in Peru. Third, on human rights and environmental fronts, CCP-controlled companies have ignored local communities, leading to backlash. Mining in the Atacama Salt Flat consumes vast amounts of water, threatening the survival of indigenous communities. Chile's Boric government has mandated that new projects use direct lithium extraction (DLE) technology to reduce environmental damage. However, Chinese companies often use cheaper, more polluting evaporation methods. This highlights the CCP's profit-driven approach, which mirrors its domestic environmental disasters. Tianqi and other Chinese companies in the Atacama use the outdated solar evaporation method. While it may seem green, it is an environmental disaster. The process involves extracting lithium-rich brine from hundreds of meters underground and then pumping it into giant, shallow pools spread across tens of square kilometers. The brine is left to evaporate for 12 to 18 months, relying on solar and wind energy. Chemicals like lime and soda ash are added to precipitate magnesium and calcium, ultimately producing lithium carbonate. The remaining brine is either re-injected into the ground or discharged into the environment. The environmental cost is staggering. For every ton of lithium carbonate produced, 2 million liters of water are lost. That's equivalent to the yearly water usage of 500 Chilean households. Over the past 20 years, the groundwater level in the Atacama has dropped by 1.5 to 2 meters, and nearby oases have dried up. The land has shrunk by several centimeters. Leaked brine has polluted the soil with heavy metals like arsenic and lead, rendering nearby farmland barren. The salt flat, once home to endangered species like the Andean flamingo, has seen 80% of its population disappear, causing an ecological collapse. Journalists who visited the Licanante indigenous community in the Atacama spoke with older elders who tearfully shared, "The lithium mines are like vampires, sucking dry our water and destroying our homes. The sustainable development promised by SQM and Tianqi is nothing but a lie." Around 20,000 indigenous people live near the Atacama, relying on livestock and agriculture. The evaporation method directly threatens their way of life. Groundwater salinization has led to a drinking water crisis. Villagers now rely on bottled water with high rates of skin and kidney diseases among children. Irrigation sources have been cut off, causing agriculture to collapse. Traditional quinoa farming has failed and poverty rates have soared. The salt flat is sacred to indigenous people, and mining has destroyed their ritual sites, causing cultural erasure and emotional trauma. Since 2023, indigenous groups have repeatedly blocked roads to the mines in protest, calling it a water defense battle. Media reports reveal that Chilean police used tear gas to disperse crowds, while Chinese company representatives stayed behind the scenes, refusing to engage in dialogue. The actions of CCP-controlled companies overseas are similar to its resource exploitation tactics in Xinjiang and Tibet: pollution first, suppression later, with no accountability. In China's Qinghai province, the CCP's Qinghai Salt Lake Industrial Company partnered with Tianqi Lithium to replicate the Atacama model, creating a lithium capital of China. However, this project has left behind a white desert of ecological devastation. In the Dam basin of Qinghai, Chinese companies have used the same evaporation method, causing another environmental disaster. Water resources have evaporated by over 1 billion cubic meters annually. The groundwater level has dropped by 15 meters, and nearby rivers have dried up. Leaked brine, with arsenic levels exceeding safe limits by 10 times, has worsened the water quality in the upper reaches of the Yellow River. Villages have been forced to relocate due to polluted drinking water, and cancer villages have emerged. Tibetan protests have been suppressed, and reporters have been expelled. The environmental disasters caused by the CCP, both domestically and overseas, have led to its defeat in the battle of Chile lithium resources. The root causes lies in its moral bankruptcy. The CCP has used corruption to buy off officials in Chile, but the Borican government rejected this. Meanwhile, the CCP's internal corruption is evident, as seen in the questionable wealth accumulation of Tianqi's founding family. Tianqi Lithium was founded in 1992 and it's headquartered in Chengdu. It is viewed as a state-supported company in China, and its founder, Jiang Weiping, is known as the Lithium King. In 1997, at age 42, Jiang left his state-owned employer to start his own business. In 2003, he established the Tianqi Group. The following year, he purchased the state-owned Shenhong lithium plant in Sichuan for 11.5 million yuan, a price far below its asset value. This plant later became the foundation of Tianqi Lithium. Reports have raised concerns that Jiang acquired state assets at an undervalued price through related party arrangements. According to these reports, he used local policy flexibility and personal networks to take control of the plant at a low cost, restructure it into a joint stock company, and consolidate ownership through Tianqi Group, resulting in family-level control. Tianqi Lithium was listed on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange in 2010. Before the listing, Jiang and his wife held nearly 97% of the shares. As the stock price rose, their net worth passed 1 billion yuan. International media noted that Tianqi benefited from China's national strategy to promote the new energy sector. As part of this effort, the company received subsidies, tax incentives, and resource allocation that supported its expansion from lithium processing to upstream parts of the global supply chain. Some media reports alleged that during the listing process, Tianqi overstated the capabilities of its core technologies to attract speculative investment, creating what they described as a model of fast wealth driven by policy support and market enthusiasm. Jiang rarely appeared in public, and the family maintained a low profile, which some saw as an effort to avoid scrutiny while relying on support linked to China's Belt and Road Initiative. The family's largest source of wealth came from acquiring shares in Chile's SQM. Media described this as a high-risk move by Jiang. Tianqi contributed $700 million, raised another $1 billion, and secured $2.5 billion in syndicated loans to complete the deal. Earlier in 2016, Tianqi acquired a 51% stake in Talison, the owner of the Greenbushes mine in Australia, the world's largest hard rock lithium resource, securing its supply of spodumene. China's push into lithium resources has been driven by economic interest, national ambition, and geopolitical goals. Through the Belt and Road Initiative and domestic stockpiling, China has sought to secure control over upstream resources in the new energy sector to strengthen its position in future global technology and energy competition. This approach extends beyond commercial planning and reflects a broader state-driven strategy. Chile's decision to reclaim its lithium resources highlights a renewed focus on national sovereignty and exposes the limits of China's overseas expansion when facing democratic resistance. This development is more than a commercial dispute. It reflects a strong pushback against China's influence and reinforces the principles of sovereignty and public accountability. Lithium has become central to the global energy transition. As a key material for electric vehicles, energy storage systems, and electronic devices, its demand has surged over the past decade. The International Energy Agency projects that global lithium demand in 2030 will exceed 2020 levels by more than 40-fold. Chile, the world's second largest producer, also holds the largest reserves. Its Atacama salt flat, known for low production cost and high output, accounts for nearly 30% of global supply. For many years, this key resource has been influenced by foreign companies, including those backed by China. China controls nearly 70% of global lithium processing capacity, but relies heavily on imported raw materials. This dependence has pushed China to secure overseas resources at any cost. China's expansion overseas has carried political influence in addition to economic objectives. Under the Belt and Road Initiative, China invested heavily in Latin America's mineral resources, often drawing criticism for corruption, environmental harm, and weakened local oversight. In Chile, Tianqi acquisition of SQM sparked strong public opposition due to concerns that China could use its economic position to influence local decisions. These concerns later proved justified. China's activities in Chile are part of a larger regional strategy across the lithium triangle of Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia, where Chinese investments total several billion US dollars. Chinese companies have won contracts in Bolivia and expanded operations in Argentina. These projects often combine low-interest loans and infrastructure commitments in exchange for mining rights. While presented as mutually beneficial, they have been viewed by critics as a form of economic leverage that strengthens China's electric vehicle industry and expands its geopolitical influence. China's lithium strategy is widely seen as part of its broader global ambitions. Beyond economic gains, it has sought to influence local policies in host countries. In Chile, Chinese entities reportedly pushed for more flexible environmental standards to speed up extraction. This approach mirrors practices seen in regions such as Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia, where resource extraction has caused environmental and social harm. Chile's decision to resist such pressure reflects a growing recognition of these risks. Nationalization is not new to Chile. The country has long asserted control over key resources. In 1971, the Allende government nationalized the copper industry, creating tensions with the United States. Today, as the climate crisis intensifies, the Boric administration views lithium as a green resource and plans to retain majority ownership in new projects. When SQM's contract expires in 2030, operations will be taken over by Codelco. Chile's move carries broad global implications. It helps diversify the global lithium supply chain, benefiting countries such as the United States and members of the European Union, which are seeking more resilient resources and reducing reliance on China. The United States has already supported domestic lithium production under the Inflation Reduction Act. At the same time, more developing countries are strengthening their control over natural resources. For China, this serves as a warning. Its ambitions in the new energy sector may face pressure from raw material shortages, and increased domestic extraction could deepen environmental and social concerns. Chile's actions show that democratic governance and national sovereignty can stand firm in the face of external pressure. Many observers believe more countries may follow this path, helping shape a global energy transition that emphasizes fairness, accountability, and long-term sustainability.